So the story goes that this young man who had been through just a few relationships in his life, the story goes that after going through several relationships, some working out well, some not, this young man finds the person who'd been around him for a while. The way I heard it, that this guy, they knew each other, but they didn't know each other. And all of a sudden, they began to sort of date and test the waters of dating. And this was a long time ago. And they dated and tested the waters of dating. And he began to be, is enamored the right word? Is that, or enamored? No, enamored. Or he just began to be really caught up in this woman or this other young lady. And it came upon Valentine's Day, their first Valentine's Day. They've only been seeing each other, talking to each other. They were in two different schools, so they'd only been talking or seeing each other, over the phone. And this was ancient days of rotary dial phones. I know you don't know that day. They couldn't email, they couldn't do things like that. It was that ancient years ago, and they called and talked a lot, but this guy decided he wanted to do something special for Valentine's Day, so he sent her not just a card. Because, ladies, don't y'all like cards? Is that a true statement? I just want to make sure. Do you like cards or not? Are y'all saying you like flowers, candy, money, a gift certificate, pedicure, manicure, all those things? Times have changed. I don't even know if they did pedicures back then. I don't know. They might have back in the day, but no, they probably would think you're pretty dumb to let somebody else do your toes. I'm not sure, but anyway. So anyway, he sends this card, not the little card, not the Walmart card, but he decided, I just want to just go over the top. And he sends a humongous card in the mail. Takes most of the money he had to just do the postage on it because he was in college and he was a student. And so he sends this letter to her and thinking that will put it over the top. And it does this extravagant thing. Well, the long story short, years later, they marry. Or a few years later, they marry. And they have children. And to this day, 37 years later, that card still exists. And I thought I'd show you that card because that was the card that I sent to my wife on Valentine's Day when I was in college and she was in college. Oh yeah, I'm getting brownie points. Is she even in here? And let me tell you, you know what the most amazing thing is that she kept this. And when I asked her to pull this out about the extravagant thing, because, we were poor. Going to college was we were poor. I mean, we were just poor. And so, it was just, I sent her the card. I spent all this postage. It was crazy anyway. And money too. I mean, it's like, I was looking at this, Jody, but she pulled this out, and she had all these other things in this envelope, because you can hold a lot of things in this big envelope. And it was a bunch of letters that I had written her. Now listen, everybody that knows me knows I don't write. And if I do write, you can't read it. And I'm talking about, there was letters that was 2 or 3 pages long. For me, that's not typing, that's not cut and paste. There was no such thing as cut and paste back then. You couldn't cut and paste. And so she said, look here, and she said, here's a week that you love me a lot because you sent me 2 letters in 1 week. Look at the dates on them. And I'm like, and then the little top up here on one of the letters, it said, I guess it said from guess who's whooped or something like that, So, but now, Jody, I don't know if you noticed this. Do you know what the date is on this? The postmark, February 9th, which 7 years later was the birthday of our first child. So that's the postmark on that, which I thought was pretty cool. Extravagance. That's a little bit over the top, a little bit. Yeah, now you've heard of other things that people do extravagant. They love and they want to show that love by being extravagant. Over the top extravagance. What are some things that you've ever heard of that is over the top extravagance? Anybody ever heard of over the top extravagant love? Anything? No, nobody in here does overtop. Has it ever received over the top extravagant love or something? Maybe you did, and you haven't recognized. Because I was talking to Lindsay, and Lindsay said sometimes it's not, extravagant love is just doing the unexpected. Or it may be doing the small things. You understand? Putting the lid down when you go to the bathroom. That's only a select few in here that have to deal with that problem. Or maybe it's making up the bed. Maybe, I'll tell you this, I shave every day. Every day. Sometimes twice a day. Now, I don't shave that part, but every day. Because one time Jody said, your face is rough and it hurts my face. And I'm like, well, man, I ain't getting no more sugar if I don't. I'm shaving every day. I mean, I'm telling you, I roll out of bed, and after the first bathroom break, that razor's on my face because I might get some sugar today. It's going to be a good day. But I got to tell you, you got to brush those teeth too because you ain't getting none of that. Because there's a cat somewhere in our house that sleeps, and we sleep our mouth open. It comes and puts stuff in our mouth at night, and it's just awful. And it's not, I'm teasing. No, we don't have a cat, Marcus. I'm joking. I'm joking, man. Marcus thinking we really do. So extravagant love, going over the top, things that we do, extravagant love. Here's the definition of extravagant. Extravagant is exceeding the limits of reason or necessity. I could have sent a little card. That would have met the need. It would express my heart, but I sort of went over that. Definition of exaggerate is also extravagant, It's lacking in moderation, balance, or restraint. This past year, was it this year or last year? It's last January. This January? A January a year ago. I took her to Carrie Underwood. And that was a big deal. Oh, yeah, and then I lined up. I did this. It was like, because she said something like, we were sitting there watching TV like the music awards in October, November, and she said, oh, I'd like to go see her sometime, and I'm like, and the bells don't go ding, 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 ding in my head many times, but it went ding, ding, ding in that one without, much hint from her. And so anyway, we lined this up, and I had a friend that had a place on St. John's River, which was really a penthouse, and he was trying to sell it, and he let us stay down there for free, and we went down there and spent a week, and she said that was over the top. I even wore wore cowboy boots to the doggone show, and my feet hurt the whole day, but I wore them cowboy boots. Well, I wore it. Well, I got to break them in, I know, but I wore them. But now I got this, I'm going to go on. Charlie was telling me he's on a low-carb diet. I'm personally on a, Tim McGraw diet. I don't care what he's eating or drinking. I'm doing the same thing that guy does because that guy is ripped. So I'm on Tim. But anyway, yeah, I got a lot of ladies going, yeah. So anyway, but over the top. So what I want to talk about this is about God's love for us. Because we've been talking over the last several weeks that God is love. And if God is love, then love is God. And what we're wanting to talk about today is that God's love is extravagant. It's over the top. It's more than you can comprehend. It's over the top, that He loves you and I that much. It's extravagant. And it's displayed throughout many parts of the Scripture. Today I want to show you an example of God's Son, Jesus. God, who some consider God on earth, His Son, Jesus, His one and only Son, Jesus, who is teaching His disciples. And He's teaching His followers by His example. Well, one day early on in His ministry, he started calling a couple of these people and said, hey, how about come and follow me? You like what I'm teaching? Come on and hang out with me. And they start having a following. And as they have this following, they end up one day going or getting invited to a wedding. And so they go to the wedding. Now, I don't know about you. I don't go to many weddings unless I'm doing the wedding, unless I'm officiating the wedding. That's just not my thing. You understand? That's just a basketball game would be great, but not a wedding. It's just you have to put on a suit, you have to dress up, and you can't spill anything on your clothes, and you can't just really cut loose because somebody's watching, So it's like it's a wedding. And so, but Jesus and his group got invited to a wedding. So here is extravagance. He went. Jesus went to this wedding. I don't know if it's his cousin's brother, sister's uncle. I don't know who it was he got married to, was getting married, but he went to the wedding. And this story that I want to talk about a little bit today revolves around this wedding. So let me give you this. It says on the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, And Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." Now, that's just a comment. She's making an observation. They all are there, so somebody's going to know when they run out of wine. If there's nothing else to drink, it'd be like running out of soft drinks here today, I guess. "Dear woman, why do you involve me?" Jesus replied, "My time has not yet come." I don't know about you, but I don't think that's the top thing on Jesus' list at that time. You understand? I'm here to save the world. I'm here. God sent me here to do... I'm not saying he's saying those things, but I'm like, them running out of wine is not the top of my priorities that I come from heaven to earth to take care of, making sure that every party has plenty of wine. But Jesus' mama comes to him and tells him this. Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind that were used for the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. So this is pretty good size. Not a 55-gallon drum, but it's a pretty good size container. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. Now, I'm just going to stop here. Why would you have to fill them? Right? But why weren't they already filled? They were empty, right? You don't fill something that's already full, right? They were empty. What were they used for? Ceremonial cleaning. So their weddings and religious things back then was almost like a ceremony. People come in, they washed their hands, had a ceremonial ritual that they washed or something. That was just the type of thing that they did. And they had used up all these water jugs. There might have been a little bit of water in there, and Jesus is like, "Well, that's not enough." He says, "Fill them up." Now, the extravagance of the servants there is they fill them up to their overflowing, to the brim. Can't carry anymore. So they did so. And so they filled them to the brim. And then he said to them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet." So they put water in. So your mind would say what they're going to dip out is water. So here's what it sounds like is going to happen. We're going to make a transition from a wine drinking party to a bunch of water with no ice. I mean, it's not even ice water. They didn't even put sweet tea in it. It's just going to be water. I mean, and this is where this is at. And so these guys dipped things out, and from some way, something happened. They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. See, that happened. You didn't even see it happen. Doesn't really say, well, did Jesus put some dirt in there? Did he put some salt in there? Or did he mix something up? Did he get some grapes and squeeze it in there? Or how? Doesn't really go to the details of how he did it. But somewhere between the master of the banquet, a miracle happened. Right? Now, the master of the banquet takes a sip of this. They said the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from. So he doesn't know. So what you have is a anonymous miracle for someone else. He didn't even know. It says, he did not realize that it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. So the people who do the stuff, the people who do the work, the people who put the water in there, the people who carried the water, the people who did exactly what Mary told them, do what my son says. See, there's a whole lot of miracles in this world waiting to happen for the servants of Jesus to do what he says. Just do what he says. And it's not big things. It's not like go grab some grapes off the vine down the road and you go get a vat and you go and just put them in here and do the Lucy Ricardo and the old so like that, stomp the grapes and get the juice to come out. It's not any of that. It's just like, go get some water and put it in them jars you already have. And let me do what I do. Then he called, so the servants did this. The master of the ceremony, undoubtedly it's the wedding planner. Oh my gosh. The wedding planner tastes it and it's great. He calls the bridegroom to the side because he must be the one footing the bill. And he says, everyone brings out the choice wine first. And then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you've saved the best to now. So he's saying, now it's not about an alcohol drinking thing here. Now, that's not what it's about. I don't want you to get into all that. But here's what's happening. In that culture, people gave their best at the beginning. But what they did was try to slide their less than best in under the radar when you were overwhelmed with the best. And they start giving you less than their best. You understand? Thinking you won't notice. It's like when you get a job and you work as an employee. You work and you do everything like that till you get that first paycheck. And after 2 or 3 paychecks, and after that, then you start working to do less and less and less than what you... Yeah, now here comes the... Now Marcus got to watch what he's saying, because about 8 employees of Buffalo Wild Wings here. Now, you ain't talking about them, are you now, man? Oh my gosh. But do you understand where I'm coming from? People give their best to start with. This is the norm. Let me tell you, it's the norm in Jesus' day, and it hasn't changed, is it? People start coming to church and they give their best. But then it gets on a few times and it gets a little bit older, a little bit time passes, and they try to sneak in what looks like, well, I'm there, I'm doing something, but it's not their best. And they want people to believe it's their best. So they camouflage it in their best. They put the wine in they take the cheap wine and pour it into the nice bottles. Do you understand what I'm saying? They take the no-name ketchup and they put it in the Heinz ketchup bottle on the table. Now, they don't do that at Buffalo's. Now, I'm not saying that. Do you see where I'm coming from? And the world has been doing this for a long time, and we live in a world that continues to do this. But that's not the way Jesus does it. This guy, the bridegroom, gets credit for being different than everyone else. And it was because of a miracle that Jesus did for him. Wonder how many miracles that Jesus has done for you in your life, that you're gaining credit for them day after day, but yet you don't recognize that's who did it. You thought it was a luck of a draw. You thought it was something else. You thought, oh, what a coincidence! I didn't run into that car when whatever the things are. How many things are the miracles of God working in your life that you don't even recognize, that you're getting credit for them? Said you had saved the best till now. The best. Where's your best at? Extravagant love gives the best all the time, not just at the beginning, all the time. Extravagant love is continual. It's all the time. It's over the top all the time. Not just when it's easy to do, not just when I'm so in love. It's when, I had someone speak to me recently and said, don't talk to me because I'm angry today about this situation, and if you talk to me, I'll start feeling better. And it's like I want to be angry, but sometimes, how do you love when you're angry? Extravagant love loves when we're angry. It loves when we disagree. It loves when we're not on the same page. It loves all the time. It's extravagant. It forgives when you don't deserve to be forgiven. It gives you a second chance when I've already gave you a second chance. This is the 22nd chance I've given you. But I love you. I care for you. I want to see the best for you. This is the extravagant love of God. Jesus tells several parables throughout his life on earth. And in these parables, he tells different stories. A parable is nothing but a story that has a deeper spiritual meaning to it. He tells one of the parables that he tells a story about this son who his father loves. There's 2 sons, and this one son says, hey, I just can't take it here on the farm anymore. Give me my part of my possession of what I'm going to get when you die, even though you're not dead. Take my inheritance as I'm gone. He takes the father's money and he squanders it. He goes to a wild place, just like throwing money in a pit and burning it. That his dad had worked so hard for, that his dad had done all of these things before the boy was even born. See, sometimes children, and I'm one of those, I'm a child, we spend money that our parents worked years to get. You think it's just what they worked that last week for. You think that house is what they just did for? It's what they worked years of trading and doing and struggling and missing a house payment and making a house payment. You borrow that car and you don't take care of it. When it's a car that might have been the first car they had that they made payments on, or that somebody didn't give to them, or what. I can just go on and on and on and on and on. This guy went and he squandered it. And you would think that he would be done. His dad's done with him. You left me. You walked away from me. You didn't need me. You didn't want to stay with me. Listen, let me tell you what he's saying. What the son is saying, it's better away from you than it is with you. Who wants to hear that as a parent? You understand what I'm saying? Who wants to hear, I'm better off away from you than I am with you? And take what you have. And I just want what you got. I don't really want you. I want what you can give me. I want what you can provide for me. And then I take that and I waste it. Now all I'm left is with my Father. The only thing I got in the world is a Father. And Jesus tells this story. And he says, this guy comes to his senses and says, I'm eating pig slop. I'm eating the stuff that I'm feeding the pigs because I'm hungry. Well, I won't eat it because I'm just starving. I'm just going to starve to death because I can't eat that. He said, I'm just going to go home and I'm going to see if my dad will let me work for him. And he comes back home. His proverbial tail, head between his legs, or tail between his legs, or, like the dog that's got his tail whimpering down and coming in there. He's got this speech all laid out to what to tell his dad. And his dad sees him coming. Man, his dad runs out there and grabs him and gives him this big bear hug. I'm telling you, like a bear hug, and the guy's probably squeezes the tears out of his eyes. He's like, hold up, Dad, I got this speech I've been working on. I got to tell you, man, you ain't got to say nothing. You're home. And he puts a robe on him and puts a ring on him and puts him back in the family, elevates him back to the status of who he was. He's never changed. His actions changed. You understand what I'm saying? He was always that guy's son. His actions just didn't match to who he was. We've all been there. We've all been somebody that's not us. We've said something in anger. We've said something in frustration. We've done something. It's just not us. And that father knew who he was, and he takes him back. And Jesus says, that's extravagant love. That he welcomes him back. It's back. As though nothing happened. You're back. Restored when you don't deserve it. He tells another story about this guy that's beaten up and robbed on the side of the road. And all the church people walk by and see him, but they're on their way to church and they got their nice clothes on and they don't want to get dirty. That guy's bloody and messy. His tire's flat. I'm on my way to church. I can't stop and help change a tire. I'm going to get my clothes dirty. I got to get there. And he said, whatever it is, this guy has been robbed, has nothing, left to die. He gets up and the church people, all of them, one after another, walk. From the middle working people to the upper priest-type people. Walk by him, don't do anything. But then this guy that had been, their cultures had been against each other, almost like a civil war, comes up and helps him. And doesn't just help him by getting his bandages his wounds. He helps him, puts him on his own donkey, walks and takes him to somewhere where he gets help, and he gives the man money and says, take care of him after I leave. Make sure he doesn't lack for anything. Help him get whole after I leave. And if I didn't give you enough money, I'll bring some more back. That's extravagant. All he had to do was patch his wounds, put a Band-Aid on him, get him back up, right? That's the minimum, right? That's what we do when we've been following Jesus all our life. We do the minimum. We do the smallest amount that we can. We don't go over the top anymore. That's only when Jesus' love is fresh on us. That his love is so fresh. We witness something that God's done in our life, and we're so excited about it that we just do anything. You ask and we help. But now we follow Jesus for years, months, years, and it starts to get stale, and we start to not do the things we first did when we first loved Him. And now when we get to that point, what do? We don't love extravagant. We just do the minimum. Here's $5. He'll get cleaned up. You ain't getting in my car smelling like that. I'm not letting you around my family. I don't know where you've been. See, we all are there. We've been there. I mean, these stories are all around because we're just like everybody else. Everybody else gives the best first, and people forget about it. And then they slip the average. And I would say to you that the church today, and I'm ashamed to say that, I'm talking about the church in general. You understand? The global church is doing that very thing. We're trying to slip average and mediocre in being our best. And God's going to call our hands on it, and He's already is. He's calling our hands saying, that's not your best. I've seen your best. I know your best. There's even days you don't even know your best, and I know your best. That's what God tells to you and says to you. And you sit there and go, oh, I just don't know if I can make it. You don't know how hard it is. You don't know. God's like, I know what your best is today. Why don't you check with me at the beginning of the day, and let's start from there. Now, that's just stories, right? Those are parables. They're not really events that happen, right? But yet we look at Jesus' life. Jesus goes up one day and he sees a tax collector, one of the most hated people of that day and time. He goes up to that tax collector, not only invites him to come and follow him, which is the same calling that he gave to the others, he goes to that knucklehead's house. And he has a meal and parties with all his tax people, the unclean people. Jesus goes over and above because he's not worried about his reputation. He's worried about that person's soul. And when the church starts thinking that your reputation is better than someone else's soul, now you've just reduced to not just even giving average, you're giving below average. And you're elevating yourself way higher than what you should do. Jesus, they have little children coming to him. They bring in little children. People are like, oh, bless my child. Just put your hands on my child. Just come see my child and all. And his disciples are like, they got a little bit of, the disciples have a little bit of authority. You know, these are fishermen. Who do you boss around when you're a fisherman? Other fish? What do you boss around? That now they have a little bit of authority because Jesus put them in position. Now all these people are coming to see Jesus, and they're the buffers. They buffer out the people, and they're like, don't let them, get those little kids around here. Get out of here. This is big people stuff. And Jesus said, no, don't you do that. You let them little ones come to me because they want to be with me. You let them, you understand what I'm saying? He didn't have to do that. That culture of that time said kids didn't come around. Just keep your mouth. He let women come around him who they said, don't let them talk. You can't have a woman teach. You can't have a woman do this stuff. He said, you come on, let them come on me. You come on, you can be one of my leaders. Come on. He went over the top. You know the stories, and you know these stories. Or maybe if you don't, they might be sounding interesting to you. They're in the Bible. I'm not telling you anything that's not in the Scriptures. You need to check it out. Always verify what I'm teaching to you. Always verify that. Always verify anything somebody's teaching to you. There's one time, there's a whole group of them out there, several thousands, and they don't have anything to eat. And his disciples said, man, why don't you send them home so we can have some downtime with you? Just chill with you. They all hungry. There's no food around here. He's like, you give them something to eat, right? Did you give them something to eat? Well, you can't give them something to eat. Take a year's worth of wages just to give them one piece of bread and just to have a bite off of it. But Jesus is like, what have you got? What have you got? Well, we got these 6 stone jars that hold about 35 gallons of water or 40 gallons of water. That's all we got. Isn't that all he had at the ceremony, at the wedding ceremony? He took what he had. He had the empty jars. Just put some water in there. Now take that to the master, right? And turned in, a miracle happened, right? They don't know how it happened, right? It just happened. They drink the wine. They go, man, this is great wine. They don't know. So in this case with the fishes and loaves, well, we got some fish and got some loaves. He's like, give them to me, and he blesses them. Not go take them and feed the people. Sit them down in little groups out there. They take them and feed them with the 5 fish or the 3 fish and the 5 loaves, and there's another time he did it with 7. Whatever it is, whichever story it was, these are actual events. They not only ate, they ate till they were full. And there was still leftovers. That's extravagant. I didn't have to give you enough but to get through one sermon. Yeah, I didn't have to feed you enough. Jesus is I'm gonna be out here another about 20 minutes. Let me give you like a bite of this, and that way you just, you know what I'm saying, just eat a little bite to wear off. You know, you need a banana sometimes. It just knocks the stomach from growling. You know, because if you got 5 or 10,000 people and you're trying to preach to them and their stomachs is growling, that's going to be pretty intimidating. I'm just going to tell you. But Jesus is like, no, I'm going to give you enough. I want you to be full. I want you to leave from here empty. I want you to be full, and I'm going to have leftovers. Because there might be others that come up later that need something. See, when we do this, when we see this throughout the Scriptures, Jesus is demonstrating the thing that he saw his Father demonstrate to him. You love, and when you love, you do it extravagantly. You go over the top. John, one of the followers of Jesus, one of his disciples, John, the last one, I always tell this, he's the last one to live. He was the last disciple to live on earth. John writes this down in a letter one time. He says, how great is the love of the Father, or the love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God. You get that? He's like, do you understand just to be called a child of God, how great of love that is that he gave you? You're his. That might not mean much to you, but if you're a child of a king, right? I don't know much about the deity thing or the hierarchical system and the queens and the kings, but I know this. The son and daughter of the king are princes and princesses. And they're being primed to take the kingdom. And they have responsibility in the kingdom. And he says, do you not understand? John's saying, do you not understand the love that God has given you? You don't deserve to be a prince. You don't deserve to be a king, a prince or a princess. And you darn well don't deserve to be over stuff later on in your life. Jesus is saying, or John is saying that what he learned through Jesus is, that's the love that God has lavished on you, that you're called a child of God. And he says, that is what we are. See, there's days that you feel like, excuse the language, crap. There's days you feel unloved. You need to understand it. You are a child of God. It's not about whether you are or not. It's whether you live into being a child of God. Because that's what you are. He says the reason the world does not know us is they don't know him. Extravagant love. Now, I'm not sure that this card right here made a difference in Jody falling in love with this hunk of a man you see up here. I'm not sure it had something to do with it or anything, but it did have something, or she wouldn't have kept it. And you can take this out. She can take those letters out, and she can be reminded of the love that I once had for her. The question is, can she see it today? And do I love her today like I did then? Do I pursue her now like I did then? Now, that ain't for you to answer. You understand? That's for her to answer. And I'll tell you, in October to be 35 years of marriage. You understand? And maybe she just ain't found a better model to trade up to. I don't know. Everything that is happening happens in your life for a purpose. And sometimes you got to take those old love letters out and read them and be reminded. And those love letters are here. And they tell you how much he loves you. In fact, you're about to participate in one of the most loving things that he did. It's like pulling the card out to remember. It's called Holy Communion. It's a time when we, as the children of God, come together to remember. You scared me there. She's pregnant. She just went, oop, and that baby kicked, and I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, whoo, I broke out in a sweat right there. So anyway, what was I talking? Oh, it's a time when we take out the letter that God wrote with the blood of his son Jesus and the parchment of the bread. And we read that letter and we remember that story of how much he loved us. That he would let his son die for our sins in place of us dying.